Unit 9, Developmental Psychology. As we journey through life from womb to tomb, when and how do we develop? Virtually all of us began walking around age 1 and talking by age 2. As children, we engaged in social play in preparation for life's work. As teenagers, you and your classmates all smile and cry, love and loathe, and occasionally ponder the fact that someday life will end. Developmental psychology examines how people are continually developing, physically, cognitively, and socially, from infancy through old age. Much of its research centers on three major issues. Number 1, nature and nurture. How do genetic inheritance, our nature, and experience, the nurture we receive, influence our development? 2, continuity and stages. Is development a gradual, continual process like riding an escalator, or does it proceed through a sequence of separate stages, like climbing rungs on a ladder? Number 3, stability and change. Do our early personality traits persist through life, or do we become different persons as we age? In Unit 1 and Unit 3C, we engage the nature and nurture issue. At this unit's end, we will also reflect on the continuity and stability issues. Section 9.1, Prenatal Development and the Newborn. How does life develop before birth? 9.1.1, Conception. Nothing is more natural than a species reproducing itself, yet nothing is more wondrous. With humans, the process starts when a woman's ovary releases a mature egg, a cell roughly the size of the period at the end of this sentence. The woman was born with all the immature eggs she would ever have, although only 1 in 5,000 will ever mature and be released. A man, in contrast, begins producing sperm cells at puberty. For the rest of his life, 24 hours a day, he will be a non-stop sperm factory, although the rate of production, in the beginning more than 1,000 sperm during the second it takes to read this phrase, will slow with age. Like space voyagers approaching a huge planet, the 200 million or more deposited sperm begin their race upstream, approaching a cell 85,000 times their own size. The relatively few reaching the egg release digestive enzymes that eat away its protective coating. Figure 9.1. As soon as one sperm begins to penetrate and is welcomed in, the egg surface blocks out the others. Before half a day elapses, the egg nucleus and the sperm nucleus fuse. The two have become one. Consider it your most fortunate of moments. Among 200 million sperm, the one needed to make you, in combination with that one particular egg, won the race. Section 9.1.2, Prenatal Development. Fewer than half of all fertilized eggs, called zygotes, survive beyond the first 2 weeks. Grobstein, 1979, Hall, 2004. But for you and me, good fortune prevailed. One cell became 2, then 4, each just like the first, until this cell division produced a zygote of some 100 cells within the first week. Then the cells began to differentiate, to specialize in structure and function. How identical cells do this, as if one decides, I'll become a brain, you become intestines, is a puzzle that scientists are just beginning to solve. About 10 days after conception, the zygote attaches to the mother's uterine wall, beginning approximately 37 weeks of the closest human relationship. The zygote's inner cells become the embryo, figure 9.2a. Over the next 6 weeks, organs begin to form and function. The heart begins to beat. By 9 weeks after conception, the embryo looks unmistakably human, figure 9.2c. It is now a fetus, Latin for offspring or young one. During the 6th month, organs such as the stomach have developed enough to allow a prematurely born fetus a chance of survival. At this point, the fetus is also responsive to sound. Hepper, 2005. Microphone readings taken inside the uterus have revealed that the fetus is exposed to the sound of its mother's muffled voice. Eklund Flores, 1992. Immediately after birth, when newborns emerge from living 38 or so weeks underwater, they prefer this voice to another woman's or to their father's voice. Busnell et al., 1992, DeCasper et al., 1984, 1986, 1994. You shall conceive and bear a son, so then drink no wine or strong drink. Judges 13.7. At each prenatal stage, genetic and environmental factors affect our development. The placenta, which formed as the zygote's outer cells attached to the uterine wall, transfers nutrients and oxygen from mother to fetus. A healthy and well-nourished mother helps form a healthy baby-to-be. The placenta also screens out many potentially harmful substances, but some substances slip by, including teratogens, which are harmful agents such as viruses and drugs. If the mother carries the HIV virus, her baby may also. If she is a heroin addict, her baby will be born a heroin addict. A pregnant woman never smokes alone. She and her fetus both experience reduced blood oxygen and a shot of nicotine. If she is a heavy smoker, her fetus may receive fewer nutrients and be born underweight and at risk for various problems. Pringle et al., 2005. There is no known safe amount of alcohol during pregnancy. Alcohol enters the woman's bloodstream and her fetus's and depresses activity in both their central nervous systems. A pregnant mother's alcohol use may prime her offspring to like alcohol. Teens whose mothers drank when pregnant are at risk for heavy drinking and alcohol dependence. In experiments, when pregnant rats drink alcohol, their young offspring later display a liking for alcohol's odor. Jungentaub et al., 2007. Even light drinking can affect the fetal brain. Brown, 1996, Ikenomudou et al., 2000. And persistent heavy drinking will put the fetus at risk for birth defects and intellectual disability. For 1 in about 800 infants, the effects are visible as fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, marked by a small, misproportioned head and lifelong brain abnormalities. May and Gossage, 2001. Section 9.1.3, The Competent Newborn. What are some newborn abilities, and how do researchers explore infants' mental abilities? Having survived prenatal hazards, we as newborns came equipped with automatic responses ideally suited for our survival. We withdrew our limbs to escape pain. If a cloth over our face interfered with our breathing, we turned our head from side to side and swiped at it. New parents are often in awe of the coordinated sequence of reflexes by which their baby gets food. When something touches their cheek, babies turn toward that touch, open their mouth, and vigorously root for a nipple. Finding one, they automatically close on it and begin sucking, which itself requires a coordinated sequence of reflexive tonguing, swallowing, and breathing. Failing to find satisfaction, the hungry baby may cry, a behavior that parents find highly unpleasant and very rewarding to relieve. I felt like a man trapped in a woman's body. Then I was born. Comedian Chris Bliss. The pioneering American psychologist William James presumed that the newborn experiences a blooming, buzzing confusion. Until the 1960s, few people disagreed. It was said that, apart from a blur of meaningless light and dark shades, newborns could not see. But then scientists discovered that babies can tell you a lot if you know how to ask. To ask, you must capitalize on what babies can do: gaze, suck, turn their heads. So, equipped with eye-tracking machines and pacifiers wired to electronic gear, researchers set out to answer parents' age-old questions. What can my baby see, hear, smell, and think? One technique developmental researchers use to answer such questions is a simple form of learning called habituation, a decrease in responding with repeated stimulation. A novel stimulus gets attention when first presented, but the more often the stimulus is presented, the weaker the response becomes. This seeming boredom with familiar stimuli gives us a way to ask infants what they see and remember. Janine Spencer, Paul Quinn, and their colleagues, 1997, Quinn, 2002, used a novelty preference procedure to ask 4-month-olds how they recognize cats and dogs. The researchers first showed the infants a series of images of cats or dogs. Which of the two animals in Figure 9.3 do you think the infants would find more novel, measured in looking time, after seeing a series of cats? It was the hybrid animal with the dog's head, or with a cat's head if they had previously viewed a series of dogs. This suggests that infants, like adults, focus first on the face, not the body. Indeed, we are born preferring sights and sounds that facilitate social responsiveness. As newborns, we turn our heads in the direction of human voices. We gaze longer at a drawing of a face-like image, figure 9.4, than at a bullseye pattern. Yet we gaze more at a bullseye pattern, which has contrasts much like those of the human eye, than at a solid disc, Vance, 1961. We prefer to look at objects 8 to 12 inches away. Wonder of wonders, that just happens to be the approximate distance between a nursing infant's eyes and its mother's. More and More, 1988. Within days after birth, our brain's neural networks were stamped with the smell of our mother's body. Thus, a week-old nursing baby placed between a gauze pad from its mother's bra and one from another nursing mother will usually turn toward the smell of its own mother's pad. McFarlane, 1978. At 3 weeks, if given a pacifier that sometimes turns on recordings of its mother's voice and sometimes that of a female stranger's, an infant will suck more vigorously when it hears its now familiar mother's voice. Mills and Mulisch, 1974. So not only could we as young infants see what we needed to see and smell and hear well, we were already using our sensory equipment to learn. Ask yourself, are you surprised by the news of infants' competencies? Remember hindsight bias from Unit 2? Is this one of those cases where it feels like you knew it all along? Test yourself, number 1. Your friend's older sister, a regular drinker, hopes to become pregnant soon and has stopped drinking. Why is this a good idea? What negative effects might alcohol consumed during pregnancy have on a developing fetus? The answer? There is no known safe amount of alcohol during pregnancy, so your friend's older sister is wise to quit drinking before becoming pregnant. Harmful effects may occur even before a woman knows she is pregnant. If a woman drinks persistently and heavily during her pregnancy, the fetus will be at risk for severe physical and/or cognitive impairments, such as occurs with fetal alcohol syndrome. Unit 9, Developmental Psychology.